the cost of inaction. So please, action, sit down.
So thank you very much for all coming. We will try to do less than 2 hours, huh, Quentin?
Yes.
That's the final what is that? Presentation. It's a bit, we're all tired. Who didn't like a presentation today?
Nobody.
Everyone likes the presentation, so that's good. We have 100% KPI. We can continue next year. Thank you.
This is the Russian KPI.
Yeah, it's Russian KPI, of course. Let's not start about the dictatorship and things. As you all know, the Lunatech is a dictatorship. There is one God. You all know who it is. And I think it's the same in Clever Cloud. So that's I'm really proud because at Clever Cloud I have my other God. So we two gods. So you know. And it goes well then, because we can say yes or no. And we mostly say no. Okay, let's start then.
So cost of inaction. So I'm Quentin Adam, the CEO of Clever Cloud. If you don't know me, I'm the WAXZCE weird handle on X. You know, the social network for bots and Elon Musk. And you can also find me on Blue Sky and stuff like that. And I was our host, Nicolas.
Ah yes, I will present me. You cannot find me on Blue Sky, happily. Actually, you cannot find me anywhere because I'm from Twitter. But I'm the CEO of Lunatech, with a small company that you don't know anything about, because you all, I think 90% are from Lunatech right now. So, and that's it. That was actually the presentation for the video.
So the point is, we want to discuss today about inaction and what is the cost of inaction.
Yes. So this keynote is supposed to make you think. Maybe it will make you think, maybe not. We do hope that it will make you think. And let's start then. So basically, I think that's a great to make you like, what is the cost of inaction? What is if you don't continue? So for example, someone really famous, Digital Equipment Corporation, who know about them? That's a bit DEC. Yeah, at least someone. So Martin is not here, otherwise I will be in two person. Anyway, so that's DEC, famously as the CEO of DEC, famously there is no reason, and there was at the time where basically you had like this super PC for companies, there is no reason why everyone would want a computer in their home. And basically, you guess what? DEC disappear. Because they only make a PC for companies and they miss the wave. We have also the famous example of Kodak. Who knows Kodak? Ah, a bit more people.
And they're coming back.
You think. Anyway, so Kodak was really like basically they capital everything on film, and they are really like a giant company. And they actually also managed to, they invented the digital format for camera. Okay, they had digital camera. However, they thought that it was not really important, and Kodak disappeared. In, whatever it was 2-3 years, something like that. So a company, again, an example, where they thought they were like king, and they were like, oh, let's not move on, let's not go too fast. And instead of acting, they just stop acting, and disappear. And we have plenty of other examples.
Another example is Xerox. So I don't know if you know it, but Xerox basically invented the mouse and the graphical user interface and a lot of part of what does a modern computer. So the headquarters of Xerox was on the east coast of United States, and they have what's called the Park Lab, which was like basically crazy people working on new stuff for using new technology, and they were on the Silicon Valley. And each time these guys were invented something, they go on the East Coast, make a presentation, and nobody cared about. And at some point, Xerox said to Apple and Steve Jobs, "Oh, if you want, You can go and take whatever you want. So basically, what Apple does with the Macintosh was, in fact, work from Xerox. But because they were selling basically a polycopier and only printer, they didn't understand that the value on the new work management will be the computer and the new graphical user interface. And they grow their own competitor inside, but didn't get the most value of it.
And we have another example, is Blockbuster. Who knows Blockbuster? A bit more. Who know VHS? A bit more, yeah, that's incredible. Yes, fax, but we still use fax.
And Betamax was better.
Yes, but
Betamax was against porn.
anyway, so Blockbuster was a giant. Before when we were young, you know, you wanted to rent some movie, you will just go to the shop and you put your card, your discount card, and then you get your VHS and you were playing that at home. Okay, and you can even the same thing existed with pirate VHS. So that's how I watch Terminator 2. Anyway, so Blockbuster, Netflix approaches them and say, look, we would like to partner with you because we Netflix, and at the time Netflix, and they basically laugh at them and say, what do you want to have video on demand? What is that? Of course not. People will go and buy and rent their videos at our store. We really don't need you. And as you can know, Blockbuster is still here famously for what? For I think something on the market price was they were betting against the price. But that's about it. Blockbuster is completely bankrupt now. And Netflix took over. Now who is using Netflix? Pretty much everyone here, I guess? Yes. And if you were but don't worry, Vintage is coming back, so you can really soon use Blockbuster renting. But anyway, so another example where for bad decision for management, because they say, no, why do we partner with you? It doesn't make any sense what you're telling us. It will not change. People will rent their video game, their VHS at our shop, and one. And in 5 years, something like that, Netflix completely exploded and changed everything.
So the point about that is to understand two things. There is the activity and there is the purpose. The purpose of Kodak is creating a way to capture picture and videos of people that you can store and being on art or being the collection of your memories. The activity of Kodak was making film. They favorized their activity over the purpose. Xerox favorized their activity over the purpose. Blockbuster favorized the activity over the purpose. Each time is the same story. If you're looking at the cloud computing industry, for example, at the beginning, people that were renting servers were explaining to me that virtualization is so bad for the business. Because basically, people were renting servers for logical reason, and with virtualization, they can have the logical reason over disconnect the logical and the physical layer. So they were thinking it's very bad. But as hosting provider, your job is not renting server. Your job is to provide to the people a way to host. This is the purpose. And one of the reasons of the failure of cloud computing industry in Europe is people which are entangled in the financial way with their activities and not able to go to the purpose. And that's something important, is your activity will bury you in the day-to-day routine and basically put you in the comfort zone that you don't want to go outside. As a company, the purpose we have will need to be reinvented, our activity, constantly and very often. And that's something very important to understand. And on this day of revolution with AI is one of the most important stuff to understand.
And we have another example. Who remember this?
Oh, yeah.
More people. Yeah, we thought that we will put something a bit more new because we have a new generation now.
You have mine. It works.
Of course, it still works.
It's pretty dead,
But you have no friends anymore on it.
yeah, but that doesn't turn on my iPhone. I don't want France anymore.
Anyway, so that here it's another example where it's basically not, well, it's what, because they were in their comfort zone, they say, no, we have the market, we dominate. And technically they were good, it's no problem, they were even better, but they completely miss the new way of technology and to advance and go further. So again, the routing. And we have another example after, which at Lunatech we know really well. Who knows about software-defined vehicle? A bit more, I think. Huh? I repeat, who knows about software-defined vehicle? Ah, okay. For the one who don't know, that basically we have like this example within Europe, Volkswagen, etc. They say, let's go electrical. And for electrical, it also means that we need new software, etc. And sadly enough, they're still working on it. They announced that, 8 years ago, and they're still working on it. And we have in Europe nothing really that works really well. We also have legacy, obviously. And what we have now is Tesla or China, with really in front with that, and we're still trying to catch up. So that's another example where basically you live in your comfort zone, and it's really, really, really hard to change.
And if you look at this, it's also a point for the whole industry to don't think about the intellectual revolution, the industrial revolution of intellectual prestation. All the industry is not thinking about that. If you think about this, a Tesla is a software with 4 wheels. It's basically that. And all the industry don't thinking in that way. So basically, we have a lot of companies and organizations that don't think in the good way there because they entangle with their activity and don't think about that, and they entangle with their technical debt. So you need to be careful there.
Yes. Oh, sorry, that's me. Cost of innovation, COI, is not the same thing as return on investment. A lot of people neglect cost of innovation because they only think about return on investment. So every time you see or you work with some big manager, yeah, where is my ROI in that? Well, if you don't innovate, if you don't really take into account this cost of innovation, that is something you need to constantly do, basically you die. So there is no return on investment. That's really easy. So you need to think about that, but that's not the same as return on investment. Return on investment is basically you put some money in and you expect to get back the money 10 times better, 100 times better. Cost of innovation is something that should be part, it's a culture, should be part of every day. That's something that people really neglect, and then what you do is turn to sleep, and suddenly one day you don't wake up.
And that's something you need to understand, like if you have a building, if you don't put money inside the building in regular form, its value will decrease. It's the same thing for your product and innovation. You need to put something on innovation all the time to be able to sustain the market around you and the ability to grow.
Yeah. And the more you wait, obviously, the more time you need to invest, the more time you will need to adapt and change things. And that's really costs even more. So that's also why people say, no, we'll do that later. If you do it later, it will cost more to do it later. It's always the same every time. So that's a bit the issue.
From a technical point of view, you can accumulate what we call the technical debt. And this is the loss of innovation because you will need to rewrite more tech. So basically, you need to avoid this time where you have so much crappy technology that you cannot make innovation anymore. From an organizational point of view, maybe you want to explain?
Yes, because I actually put that not so long ago, but I don't really remember, but will bear with me. So yeah, in Lunatech, we have a really flat structure, for example. Guess what? If you don't invest into taking ownership, that's why we're pushing people, it doesn't work either. And you have a problem is you need to change to something else. And personal is basically if you sleep, so we're talking about comfort zone, etc. If you sleep and you don't wake up, you do over and over the same, what will happen? Your career will stop, you will miss opportunities, and you can not move anywhere else. And what happened for a lot of people in a lot of organizations, I will not name organization in New York, for example, but a lot of people, they reach a certain level, and then they basically do over and over the same thing. If you want to do over and over the same thing and sleep, go to a factory. Go in China, that's 14 hours per day, but at least you will have a recognition that is not moving and doing the same thing over and over.
And what you need to do is to understand that inaction is really expensive. And trying and failing is learning. Trying and failing is learning. When you learn something, you gain some value. And basically, no choice is a choice. And if you don't do the choice yourself, the choice is made for you, and it's never a good thing. So basically, it's something very important to understand that inaction is very expensive. We need to keep up with the pace all the time. And to understand that, we need to say that there is no real technical debt. It doesn't exist. It's a made-up word that I prefer to explain as investments. When you do something, you're making an investment on something. An investment is a line, okay? A line of investment needs to be carried on. So sometimes you need to continue to put investment. So if you write a software, if you don't update the lib, if you don't keeping the work on finding bugs, if you don't keep skills and people knowing the code base, the investment is falling down, and getting back your investment will cost you a lot, because you will need to have people that take back the learning curve of the code base, of the businesses behind, everything. Updates of the library will be like far biggest. So it's complicated. And you need to see everything have an investment line that need attention. I'm writing that in a blog post which is called Technical Debt, the myths of in the heart of the IT labyrinth. But something important there to remember is you can have small investments that pay back a lot. For example, if you are a startup, you're writing a proof of concept that make you leverage to raising some money, it's a very good payback. Writing your software on top of the proof of concept is exactly like if you go and you need to sleep tonight, so you buy a tent and it's about like $50. So you buy a tent and you can sleep on the night. And you can sleep like 2 or 3 nights or 4 nights and it will be okay, you know, in a tent. But if you decide to build a building of 20 stage on top of the tent, it's absolutely nonsense. It's stupid, because the tent is not done for that, and you will break the building and the tent. Your proof of concept is exactly the same thing. It can be a small investment that have a good return of investment, so your line is good, and you will make another investment, huge one, which will be your building, a good software able to scale on the time. And if you see all the investment on the IT like that is very comfortable, because there is good investments, bad investments, and return in investments need to be checked on every line. And if a line is going down, sometimes it's better to cut. For example, if you buy some Eurotunnel, it will never be better. You know, like at some point, it never be better. So let's cut off. Because at some point, there is some investments that are bad. And you know what? It's not a big time, because investments that are bad are always an investment on learning. The worst you can have is people leaving your team. If people leave your team, basically your investment is not redeemed, because the learning, you will basically lose him. So at some point, you need to figure out things like this way. I really advise people to read this article, because it's how we manage the investments way in Clever Cloud about the software. And as a 15 years old company, we do manage a legacy and what does actually win money or lose money. And I as explained, I give an example like quickly. There is a software once we write, And it takes like 1 year. It was the manager of the reverse proxy for all the Clever Cloud. We wrote it in Scala, full in async, and basically we took 1 year managing that. And it became a nightmare because it doesn't work. There was race condition. The people who learn about the technology was learning on the business on the same time. And what we discovered writing it is the question we need to answer was not the question we think it was. So basically, all of our technical choice, all of the decision we make on the software was not the good one. And we basically have a huge problem there because it was not the good solution, the good decision we make on this. What's happened is one night, one of the people managing the software decided to rewrite everything, not async, full blocking because it was a blocking system, in fact, and rewriting everything in one night in Java. Two days later, it was on production, and since we never heard about. Why? Because he knows the problem. Sometimes you need to understand really the problems, and while you're doing that, your code base will be really bad, and your prior technical choice have been really bad. And sometimes it's better to go greenfield because of your learning and because of what you have done. And this way, if you have the two lines combined, the two lines are very good because rewriting the software have been very cheap, and you will economize on maintenance. So in this way, if you collide the two lines of investments, it's a good investment. And this is the way you need to figure out stuff to understand the way you can make investments and make return on money on the investments.
And we're taking another example with actually already from on the news, you read everywhere. So what's the difference between Europe and US? US is really known for basically innovate really fast. Europe is more stable. It takes a lot of time in Europe as well because we have way more regulation as well, which is a good thing for the customer, but of course takes a lot of time. And like we're talking about cost of innovation, is time is a big is really an important axis about that. The more time it takes, the more cost it takes, basically. So in the US, the philosophy is more like we move really fast, and we basically also not afraid to fail. We fail fast. In Europe, it's, usually it takes a few years and a few hundred millions. That's basically, so we decided to give you a bit of comparison.
So basically, this is a very interesting graphics. In the last 15 years, it's a 10 billion market capitalization new company built in the US and Europe.
And as you can see, little issue here.
There are 300 million people in the US, 500 million people in the Europe. This is the cost of inaction. This is one of the big costs of saying, you know what, we stabilize and we decide later.
We have time.
Another example? This is the difference of the GDP per habitant in US and European Union. And do you see where it becomes something different? Mid 2000 years. Basically, digital market. Because the velocity of the work on the digital market was something we weren't prepared to manage with our way to do. Because it's not industrial way to do.
And that's why Renato still has his facts. Okay, cost of inaction, what is it? It's basically give us Europe. We basically miss leadership in cloud, in AI, social media, and platform economics. Startups in Europe are also way more, they have way more difficulties to scale up. That's also a capital thing, etc. But in general, means why? Because we have way more regulation, which is good for the customer as well. But guess what? The US or China, they don't care about that really much. So that's why we're getting there. So that's also fear of failure, like I say. So we miss opportunity because we don't want to fail. But in fact, because we don't want to fail, we don't innovate, we don't try things. We just say, oh, let's stay about that, I know about that, I know about that, so I will not try something new. And yes, innovation requires courage. It's just not, it's not a question of competencies. The competencies we have in Europe, for example. But somehow, we lack the courage of innovation, of changing things. And that's a bit the issue every time. France is really well placed. Huh? Everyone wants change, but no one wants to change. So it's basically that. So every time there is a change, everyone goes on the street because, no, I want the thing to change, but not for me, for him. And that's a bit the problem. No one wants really take the courage to say, hey, you know what, I will change as well. So that lead to that.
Giving you an example, this is two countries which basically have the same Independence Day, okay? Nearly the similar population, a little bit more in South Korea, and two different strategies. In Morocco, they basically exploit natural resources, and in South Korea, they put everything on education to create new technology leader. And the beginning of the graph is the 60s, and now you can see the difference between South Korea and Morocco. It's impressive, isn't it, to see the scale. And the difference you need to understand there is velocity. One of the big value we don't understand in Europe but have a very huge impact is the ability to be quick. Because sometimes you just need to move. When I was making a maker, you know, the mechanical ventilator project I do while the COVID, what we do is we have 4 hours sprint. Every 4 hours, I make technical decision. And as we were working on stuff we basically don't understand, but was not only technical, but also regulatory and industrial, basically every 4 hours I was killing possibilities. I was killing
people as well.
I just like say, okay, this option is no more an option. We take all of our resources and put it on that. And this way we learn a lot. And we learn a huge scale and very fast because of velocity. And on this precise case, it was absolutely crazy because the guys working on the stuff was all very crazy. I also have the management of the sleeping schedule of the people. So I basically have an industrial way to manage that the people can go sleep while we were printing pieces on the lab or while we were waiting for a delivery of some supplies. So this case, we actually were ramp up and optimized for velocity only. And in just 4 weeks, we were industrialized, certified, and all set up with nothing at the beginning because of the velocity. And sometimes velocity is very important for everything. If you look at the cloud computing industry, the ability of AWS to sell today is not because the product is very different from Azure or Google. It's just they are bigger because they were there the first. Because velocity is gaining a lot of market, and when your market is stacking, it's basically something important. So velocity is important because velocity is learning, and your way to learn more quickly than the others. And that's something very important to understand, that velocity is underrated in Europe, but one of the biggest things we can have because velocity is actually the best way to learn.
I think that's still you, not talking. Yes.
Yeah. This guy is called Kurzweil. Kurzweil explains something which is the law of accelerating return. It means that every technical progress makes the next technical progress closer. That's why technology is always on a scaling which is exponential. Because basically, each time we invent something, it has repercussion over everything. This leads to 2 things. First, if you are accelerating, you will accelerating faster and faster over the time. Second, if you want to get back on the track, the price to going back is very cheap compared to be on the first. That means that the race is open to everyone. At each time you consider the velocity as important, because going back to the first place is open for everyone, like in Mario Kart. There is a possibility of a champ all the time, and you can win the race all the time. And this is the philosophy behind this, which basically prove that there is no possibility to put a barrier except of the mind of the people.
If you had the banana, you could win.
Yeah. Banana is called lobbying in Brussels.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So another example is what happened on cloud services, right? So if you don't now go on the cloud, you have an handicap. You're still relying on bare metal. You're still basically, it's especially in companies, you're still relying on your old way of doing. You don't want to change. So it's basically you have your competition, and your future competition will probably use this new capacity and will adapt faster and will go faster. Again, cost of innovation. No, I don't want to change anything. I have my engineers, they know what to do, except that it's way slower. So everyone else is way faster. Again, velocity. We had like some example is, for example, Netflix were the first one to adopt cloud computing, AWS. What do? Is they were able to scale like immensely. So which means that they can stream videos on demand, etc., without any problem. The classical broadcaster had really problem to follow because they had to put more bare metal, etc., which was not an issue at all, or using Amazon, for example. Yeah, where are we? Yes, so basically, if you don't really think like that about innovation and everything, you miss growth opportunities. We'll take the example is like you are a software engineer, right? What does that mean for you is every time you postpone something because you're in comfort zone, you meet crystal insight, and you don't grow anymore. You're just doing your job with the same job over and over, and you cannot really go further, which means that basically you cannot get promoted and you're stuck in your job, basically.
There is something important which has been said in the startup world, but it's okay for every product, is if you're not ashamed of the product you're releasing, basically you release too late, because you need to get some feedbacks the most early as possible. So basically, the two things we just say with Nicolas is release early, release often. Because more you release early, more you release often, more you will get some feedbacks and more you will get some learning. And as I said before, the learning curve and optimize the learning curve is the best way to gain, because what you want is having a very good team and having the best team in the world, because they learn the most fastest way. So that's something very important, I think.
Yeah, and basically, even if it's buggy, be reactive. Is the user already, they can forgive you if it doesn't happen too often. They even forgive you really nicely if you fix immediately. So be reactive, be proactive. It's basically the idea. Yes, so another thing is if you don't innovate as well, but there's a good chance that you will still build a Struts application. Who knows Struts? The same two people? I know a bit more.
And it's still happening.
It's still happening, yeah. And you can see that some people, because they didn't say, no, it's fine, it's working, things like that. But what happened is now, and we'll talk about it later, you have vulnerability, security issues, etc. Because, yeah, it's working. I don't want to change anything, because, yeah, it's working. But the thing is just dealing with the problem. And once you have already the problem, you need to act. And that's way harder. You like all the competencies and everything. And nobody understands this app, except if you're like me, or maybe like Martin. And that's a huge problem. So that's, and your competition is basically, in case of a software developer, engineer, you basically, your competition in the meantime is learning all the new stuff and go way faster and can deliver faster, fail faster, etc. Yes, so inaction, basically what we still talking, is basically doesn't help to improve your skill, and your job is becoming a bit irrelevant, and your job is becoming a bit uninteresting, at least for the market and for yourself.
Basically, what I explain to the people is being a good engineer is not knowing a tech. It's not because you know Quarkus or Struts or Go that you are a good engineer. A good engineer is someone who understands the business and learn fast to use the new tools. Because basically, the tool you learn at the school is not the tool you are using today. So you need to be adaptable on this and move fast on many things. And that's, in my humble opinion, the best way to be a good engineer, understanding what you are automatizing and be able to scale really fast on your learning curve.
Yeah, so it's basically a software engineer is technical investment as well. Huh? You need to invest in your team. To invest, it's an investment. What we talk about that pays off this continuous investment, and basically that's allowed to upscale your team. This is another subject about documentation, structuring your project, etc. But it's an investment that you need to do constantly. That's what we call the cost of innovation.
And basically, if you do this way, it's your line of investment I speak about is basically sometimes you can say it's okay to close this line, which is not so good in terms of return on investments, but we learn something. So if you have the learning curve, it's okay because the ability to learn stuff is an ability to be able to display it later on another channel and continue to scale the product.
Yeah, to move faster later on. Remember this velocity. That's what we talk about. We want to have this velocity going up all the time to go faster. Yeah, so that's basically some example of if you don't do that, it's like, yeah, I'm becoming that dev. That's, the one that is really quiet, never volunteer on anything, just do his ticket. And, no one sees potential because actually he's just doing his ticket, right? The team even forgets about you because you're doing your ticket. You don't really communicate with each other. And the management say, well, I don't know why we have him. He's expensive, he's old. And he's doing his ticket. And we need to go faster. And what happened? No. So that's basically inaction, cost visibility. And visibility really matter in a company or even in the world, actually, to the extreme, if you look at the US. But
tu peux le faire, ça.
yeah, you want to do it?
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, slow response to bad code. So most of the time, that's some example from engineers that we saw. We'll do it later, Oh, we don't have time to refactor now, later. And in fact, you end up never doing it. And that's the thing that you will pay later. Because you end up feeling the code base. It's what happened a lot of, I don't touch this thing. Oula, no, I don't. That was the guy 6 years ago. What do you think? I don't understand anything anymore. And I'm really sorry, new guy. It's like that. Yes, you will have to bear with me. So basically what happened in Java, you do try catch and you catch the thing and I don't understand the rest. So there is a mistake, so I will try catch. And you end up paying it. And basically you also, because everything is bad, so you're the only one understanding this code, So you will stay there. Again, you instead of solving the problem, you're just part of the problem after, and your career is stuck as well. And basically, when this happens, you start losing trust in yourself because you're like, well, you know what? I'm only able to debug this thing, and it's what we call maintenance. You're no more a developer, you're a maintenance guy. So in case something happens. And the longer you wait, actually, and you say, no, here I need, or you don't take action, that's cost of inaction. You take no action, the longer you will stay, you will lose your confidence. And well, basically, it's just like you getting irrelevant because this code will say, well, you know what, we have this new fantastic AI product, we'll replace this code. And it's just really, it's not good for you either. So that's some example of what happened. We took from like country size to, and we go back to basically personally how that can affect you, this cost of innovation.
If you are a software engineer and stay in your comfort zone, you basically become corroded, and you become less and less relevant because, as I said, a software developer is not someone who knows technology; it's software who know how to learn. And if you don't learn anymore, you are basically breaking your value on the market.
And basically, you're becoming like that. Ah, no. Where's my slide? I like that. That's what happened when you only know one thing, and you're like, no, I stopped learning because I didn't get my training about this new technology. And basically, you just don't innovate anymore. You're part of this problem, this cost of innovation, and you become like some old squirky things that doesn't really gear up.
In this case, if you learn Rust, then
Yes.
We're perfectly okay with that.
That was not okay. So another thing is that to take on this, and we'll try to go a bit faster after because we. Oh no, we're still on time.
We are on time.
No, that's all the time. So basically, cybersecurity is really a hot topic right now. Everyone is attacked. Same thing. If you don't keep up, you don't innovate, you don't think, you will be. If you just leave the thing, you will be exposed to a cybersecurity issue, and that's so basically on some. From one day to another, you can lose your whole business because, well, basically, you're ransomware, or otherwise you close. That's something to be really careful with, obviously. And that's one of the hot topics right now. So something to think about. I'll let you do this one. Yes, you're the champion of that.
Basically, European sovereignty on technology is important. The market of digital is about 19 thousand billions per year, and we are the European. We are waiting about 4.6% of the oil market, which is very little. United States is about 81% of the market. And the second, which is Taiwan, because they sell the chip, is about 5.9. So collectively, we need to do something about that. And for this, it's something we need to work on every day. So we need to all try on the technology of European people and feedback them to make them grow. So when you bought an Android, that means maybe trying the Fairphone. When you're trying to have cloud computing, maybe it's on Clever Cloud. When you try...
That maybe is surely.
So many technology like that, you need to figure out a way to use European people. And if it doesn't fit your needs at some point, just feedback to the people making the product because they need to learn and grow. And that's something important. Feedbacks is a good way to learn and grow.
And if we don't act, we will not have sovereignty. So we'll go back in the field and raise goats.
And another point about the hot topics right now is AI adoption. As a developer, I know there is a lot of people who really trust about the craftsmanship and stuff, and we're perfectly okay with that. The point is AI is the new tools that we need to write and we need to use. We're basically way faster using the AI than we were before. And if right now you didn't try AI in your day-to-day work, there is a problem that you are going to be outdated very soon. So the point where you can use AI for writing issue, commits, report, meetings, everything. Majority of the problem of communication between the people is basically you saying something to another without telling all the context. one of the best things is, okay, I will explain to you the whole thing, and at the end, ask me any question you found relevant that I can transfer all the context to the people I am working with. And this is the most relevant way to work very precise and clean issue, very precise and clean commit log, merge request, documentation, or even meeting report. Meeting report isn't about just recording the meeting and have the minutes generated. If you have the transcript of your meeting, you just explain what are the axes, what are the takeaway you want to the LLM, and it will write you something which will be way more useful, which will be way more actionable as a summary than what you can have if you don't say anything. So first, on the communication process, you need to use LLM every day. The second thing is about code. Writing code with LLM is way faster. Even at Clever Cloud, people very, very narrow about distributed system in Rust say to us, like, basically, I just write down in just a few hours something I was planning to do in the next 2 weeks. So sometimes you're very fast with this kind of stuff. But you can have many other ways to be interesting in the way to use the code. Library migration, like going from this library to this library in code with AI is very faster. You can be very fast at doing that. Update library, going from this version to this version, you can do it very fast with AI. Or when you are in a huge code base you don't understand, there is something you can do which is, okay, I need to do this kind of stuff in the code base. I don't really understand how it works. Can you give me a summary of the architecture of the code base and point me where you think I need to add something to do whatever I want to do? And this is a kind of way you can use these tools very quickly as a developer to be more productive. To be fair, a non-developer reading the code managed by an AI is totally nonsense, and they're doing like very, very disastrous system. A good developer with a good AI tool is a maximum productivity stuff. So you still need to be a very good developer to using it. But to be fair, it's a very, very good tool today to become one of the faster developers in the world. And I really trust that this is something we need to understand right now.
And basically, we're going back to velocity, what we explained. You can increase your velocity dramatically with all this new tool. Sometimes I heard some developers say, I will never replace. It's not about replacing. It's basically increasing your velocity, is increasing the way, your productivity. Oh, there is a slide with nothing. Oh, sorry.
It's the conclusion.
Ah, cool. Yeah, so we're basically on time, first time ever. And yeah, so basically if you have to take something out, is inaction doesn't protect you. Most of the people say, no, if I don't change anything, that's fine, going to work out, the next one will take over. No, inaction actually just delays consequences. Consequences can be like, I'm outdated, I lost my job. Or I lost my company because, well, competition arrived and they're basically way 10 times cheaper than me or better in doing things than me, and I lost it. So cost of doing nothing is actually something really real that can be personal and collective. Is most of the time it starts with one guy, but collectively we don't do anything, nothing changes. And everyone is happy. That's a bit the story of what I was explaining with what happened in France. We all go to protest collectively, but nothing changed. And but that's basically postponing the consequences. So the ideas of this keynote is, take the first step, start something. That's really the first thing you can do.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. That was the last slide, actually.
Yeah.
And that concludes our, again. You have
some gift. You don't have, you.
Conclude our
I have some gift you don't have.
I already got them. That's going on all day. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Quentin, again.